It was past midnight when I boarded the last bus heading home. The street lights outside were dim, and the bus itself was nearly empty. Just the driver, me, and one man who got on right after I did. He was tall, wearing a black hoodie pulled low over his face, and instead of taking any of the dozens of empty seats, he sat directly behind me. I tried to brush it off. Maybe he just liked that spot. But within minutes, I felt it in his eyes. Even though I couldn't see them, I could feel them burning into the back of my head. The bus was quiet except for the low hum of the engine, but every so often I heard him breathing heavily, almost like he was trying to control it. I told myself not to look back, not to give him a reason to engage. But when the bus passed under a flickering streetlight, I caught his reflection in the window next to me. His head was tilted slightly, and he was smiling. Directly at me, I froze. My stop was still 15 minutes away. I pulled my phone out, pretending to scroll, but my hands were shaking. I opened a chat with my roommate and typed, "Someone's acting weird on this bus. Sit behind me, smiling. Creepy as hell." I hit send, praying for a quick reply. The man shifted in his seat. I felt the vibration of his movement through the thin bus cushion. A whisper followed, low and raspy. "You smell nice." My stomach dropped. My heart slammed against my ribs so loudly I thought he'd hear it. I wanted to scream for the driver, but the man's face suddenly appeared closer in the reflection. He was leaning forward. The bus hit a bump, jostling us, and I used the chance to move one seat ahead, putting a little space between us. I didn't dare turn around, but then my phone buzzed with a reply from my roommate. "Are you joking? I thought you were home already." At that exact moment, I felt something brush against my hair. I spun around so fast, I nearly fell out of my seat. The man had stretched his long fingers forward, grazing the back of my headrest. His hood had slipped slightly, revealing a pale face, eyes wide open, unblinking. "What do you want?" I snapped, louder than intended. He didn't answer. He just sat back, smiling wider now, like he'd won something. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror, but said nothing, probably thinking it was a drunken passenger causing minor trouble. I turned back around, breathing hard. My roommate texted again. "Get off at the next stop. I'll come pick you up." Relief washed over me, until I realized something. The next stop wasn't for another 10 minutes, and the man, he started humming, low, tuneless, and terrifying. Every note vibrated against my spine. I kept my eyes glued to my phone, but then the screen lit up with a notification. "Unknown number. Don't try to run." My blood turned ice cold. I hadn't given anyone my number, let alone this stranger. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I turned slightly and saw the man still smiling, but now his phone was in his hand. He was staring at me as his thumbs tapped across the screen. Another buzz. "I like watching you panic." I bolted from my seat and rushed toward the driver. "Excuse me, that man is harassing me," I whispered urgently. The driver frowned and looked back, but the man had already moved. He was now sitting 2 rows behind, expression blank as though nothing had happened. The driver muttered something about, "Just stay up here," but my stop was coming. I didn't want this guy following me off the bus. As the bus slowed, my phone buzzed again. "If you get off, I'll follow. If you stay, I'll sit closer." I realized then, no matter what I chose, I wasn't safe. The bus screeched to a halt. My heart pounded as I made my choice. I leapt up, sprinted off the bus the second the doors opened, and ran straight into the nearest gas station across the street. I looked back just in time to see the man step off the bus, too. But when he noticed I wasn't alone anymore, he stopped. He stood there under the flickering street light, phone still in his hand, hood shadowing most of his face. Then slowly he raised his free hand and waved at me. Not friendly, more like a promise. The bus pulled away, leaving him on the sidewalk. He turned and walked into the darkness, vanishing without a trace. The police said later they couldn't track him. The number that texted me didn't exist. My roommate never let me take the night bus alone again. And sometimes when I'm on a late ride home, I swear I hear humming just behind me. You expect to feel safe inside your own home, but when the danger is standing right outside your window, staring in, there's nowhere left to hide. It started on a Thursday night. I was alone in my apartment, second floor, working late on my laptop. The blinds were half open, and the only light in the room came from the screen's glow. Out of habit, I looked toward the window. That's when I saw him. A man standing perfectly still in the shadows across the street, head tilted upward watching my apartment. At first, I thought maybe he was just passing by, smoking or waiting for someone. But after 10 minutes, he hadn't moved. His face was obscured by the darkness, but I could make out the outline of his shoulders and the eerie stillness of his posture. I tried to ignore it, pulled the blinds closed, and convinced myself it was nothing. But when I went to bed later that night, I couldn't shake the image of his silhouette staring directly into my window. And when I woke up around 3 a.m. for a glass of water, I peeked through the blinds. He was still there. Same spot, same stance, watching. The next day, I told myself I had been paranoid. Maybe it was just a drunk guy or someone waiting for a cab. But as soon as night fell, I couldn't stop myself from checking the window. He was there again. Same man, same spot. This time I got a better look. The street light caught part of his face. It was pale, gaunt, with deep-set eyes that didn't blink often. He stood with his hands shoved into his coat pockets, head tilted at that unsettling angle. I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture, but the flash accidentally went off, lighting up my entire room. The man didn't flinch. He just shifted his weight slightly, like he wanted me to know he saw me. That night I barely slept. Every creak in my apartment made me jump. And when I finally drifted off, I woke suddenly to a sound at my window. A faint, deliberate tapping on the glass. I froze in my bed, staring at the curtains that hid the window. The tapping came again. Slow, patient. I mustered the courage to pull the curtains open, just a sliver. My heart nearly stopped. The man was standing right there directly outside my window, somehow on the second-floor balcony. His face was pressed close to the glass, eyes wide and bloodshot, a crooked grin stretching across his face. I screamed and stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp. By the time I looked again, he was gone. I called the police, my voice shaking, but when they arrived, they found no one. The balcony door was locked from the inside. The officers shrugged it off, suggesting maybe I'd dreamed it or it was some prank. But I knew what I saw. And later, as I tried to calm down, I noticed something on the window pane smudges. Fingerprints. Long, streaky marks dragged downward, like someone had been sliding their hand across the glass. The following nights were worse. I kept every curtain closed, every light on, but I still felt watched. The air in my apartment felt heavy, tense. On Saturday, while making coffee in the kitchen, I heard my phone buzz with a notification. An unknown number had sent me a photo. My stomach dropped. It was me sitting at my desk the night before, blinds drawn but slightly parted. The picture was taken from outside, through the tiny gap. I bolted the doors, called the police again, and begged them to send someone. But by the time an officer arrived, the street was empty. No strange figures, no sign of forced entry. They told me to stay with a friend for a few days. That night I packed a bag, but as I zipped it shut, my bedroom light flickered. I turned toward the window, and though the curtains were drawn, I could see the faintest shadow of someone standing on the other side. I didn't stay to check. I grabbed my bag, ran out of the apartment, and drove straight to my sister's place across town. I stayed there for a week. When I finally returned, the first thing I noticed was the smell of damp, stale air. And then I saw it. On the inside of my bedroom window, drawn with a finger in the thin layer of dust, were 3 words, "Found you again." I moved out the very next day. The police never identified anyone. And now, no matter where I live, I can't sleep without the blinds tightly shut, because I never saw that man again. But sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, certain that someone is standing just beyond the curtains, waiting for me to look. What was supposed to be a fun weekend with friends in an old family cabin turned into the most terrifying night of my life. We thought we were alone. We were wrong. It was supposed to be harmless fun. 4 of us, me, my best friend Alex, and 2 others from college, decided to spend the weekend at Alex's family cabin. It was tucked deep in the woods, about an hour's drive from town, the kind of place with no neighbors and no cell service. The cabin was old, creaky, but cozy. We'd built a fire, played cards, and laughed about how cliché it felt, like the beginning of a bad horror movie. By midnight, we were all half asleep in our sleeping bags on the living room floor. That's when I heard 3 sharp knocks on the cabin wall. Not the door, the wall. At first, I thought maybe it was an animal. But then it happened again. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, deliberate, like someone was signaling. We froze, staring at each other. Alex whispered, "It's probably nothing," but I could see the fear in his eyes. Because we all knew. There shouldn't have been anyone out there. We tried to brush it off, but none of us could sleep. Around 2 a.m., I got up to grab water. That's when I noticed something odd. The back door, the one we hadn't used, was unlocked. I locked it quickly, but as I turned the bolt, I heard soft crunching footsteps in the snow outside. Too heavy for an animal. I whispered for the others, and we all gathered in the kitchen. Nobody wanted to admit it, but we weren't alone. Suddenly, the doorknob rattled. Just once, then silence. We armed ourselves with whatever we could find, a fire poker, a kitchen knife. Alex wanted to check outside, but we convinced him it was safer to stay put. After an hour of silence, we finally started to relax. That's when my phone, lying on the counter, lit up with a notification. Despite no service, a text had come through. It was from an unknown number. The message read, "Nice place you've got. Warm, cozy. Can I come in?" My blood ran cold. We hadn't told anyone we were here. The location was remote, no signal. And yet someone knew. Alex grabbed my phone, swearing it was some sick joke. But then we heard its footsteps circling the cabin, slow and deliberate. Whoever it was, they were walking just outside, dragging something metallic against the wooden walls. The sound scraped along every side, moving toward the front porch. Then came the knock again, this time on the door. 3 sharp raps. We didn't move, didn't breathe. After a long stretch of silence, we thought maybe they had left. But then, from the back of the cabin, came a low voice, muffled through the wall. "I like watching you hide." We bolted to the living room, hearts pounding. There was no way out except through the woods. We decided to make a run for the car. It was parked about 50 yards down the path. Grabbing our bags, we threw open the front door and sprinted into the night. The cold air cut into my lungs as I ran, branches snapping underfoot. Halfway down the path, Alex shouted, "The keys!" He had left them inside. Before we could argue, a figure stepped into the faint glow of the porch light. Tall, hood pulled over its face. Just standing there, blocking the doorway. We froze, terrified. The figure didn't chase us, it just stood, watching, head tilting the way a predator studies its prey. Then came the sound again, that awful metallic scraping. But this time it was behind us, somewhere in the dark woods. We weren't dealing with just one person. Panic surged through us. We bolted into the trees, abandoning the path. Branches tore at our faces, the forest swallowing us whole. Behind us, I heard laughter. 2 distinct voices. We stumbled through the darkness until we finally saw headlights the road. A truck was passing, and we ran straight into its path, waving frantically. The driver slammed the brakes, furious at first, until he saw our faces. He let us in without hesitation. When we looked back, the cabin was barely visible through the trees. But on the porch, under the dim light, stood those 2 figures, watching, still. The police searched the cabin later, but found nothing. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, nothing to prove anyone had been there. But we know what we saw. And to this day, I can't shake the feeling that if we had stayed one more night, we wouldn't have made it out at all.